So yesterday, amongst all of the major Nintendo Direct announced Switch content, we did get a shadow drop for 4 different games for Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack tier members. This is a mixture of Game Boy Advance and N64 titles, and you do have to download a new N64 app in order to access those particular games. But you can see the following tweet from Nintendo of America, which reads, "Attention Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack members, these N64 and Game Boy Advance games are available now. Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, Perfect Dark, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past 4 Swords, and Metroid Zero Mission." And in today's video, I want to boot up these games together, share some of my thoughts of NSO lately, go over a couple different updates, one of which having to do with the home screen, outline a way to play Perfect Dark, probably the way you should set it up with your Pro Controller, and you should probably do this out of the gate before you get far into the game at all, and have a broad conversation of what this Shadow Drop update really proved to us with Nintendo and how they will release games going forward for the expansion pack tier, because I think we have now identified a pattern that is somewhat telling. So we'll get on the same page with all of that. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, we'll hop right into some Nintendo Switch gameplay. So the first thing I want to highlight actually has to do with this Nintendo Switch Online icon that I don't really use too much, but it did get a pretty I guess you could say large update in the sense that they moved around a lot of stuff. They kind of redesigned the homepage, if they will, and you see it's kind of right here on the news, but you do have all the different announcements already like readily available if you just scroll left to right. Also, there's some Metroid Dread icons, I believe, that just went live for NSO. But you know, nonetheless, I guess it's notable enough just because it is one of these things that we don't see this change very often. It's still that web-based interface, so I'm never really going to hop into here and really go through missions and rewards or any of the stuff to you know, earn various different icons and coins and things. But nonetheless, because it's a larger update, I figured I'd mention it, though, you know, again, I don't think that this page really serves a ton of purpose. You can hop like straight into certain games through this as well if you just go through the library, but I still would tend to do it just through the emulator app. However, one thing that we do need to note real quick, and I guess we'll kick it off with Perfect Dark because I do want to mention probably the best way to go ahead and play this game whenever you get into it. And first, we will go ahead and open up the N64 Mature app, which is totally closed off and separate from the existing N64 app. So you will need to go into your Nintendo Switch eShop and actually download this separately. If you just go to the Nintendo Switch Online section, you will see it listed. And this is just going to have the M-rated Nintendo 64 games and only those on there. So what we'll do is boot up Perfect Dark, and I know there is a controller setting in here that you will probably want to play in order to make it play more like a modern shooter as opposed to the one analog N64 setup that you would have originally played with back in the day. So as we go into our first mission here, we will hit the menu button. We will then go into our controller options, and we will want to switch this to control style 1.4, if I'm not mistaken. This is what we want. Very similar to that of GoldenEye if you did end up playing through some of that. However, the next key thing you will need to do is go into your system settings, and you will have to, I like to create like a separate profile, which I've already done ahead of time, but if you go down to your controller settings and change button mapping, you will be able to create a custom profile for your said Nintendo Switch Pro controller. You can then load that profile, and the settings you want to change here you can see on screen, which is reversing the analog sticks and making the A button the ZR button and vice versa. So we're going to do that now, and then I will hit the home button again, and what's weird is I will have to click that in order to kind of make it my go-to control scheme. But now we're playing this kind of more like a modern shooter, so a lot better. It is still inverted controls is the only thing, which I do need to I wonder if there is a way to adjust that in the settings, because that'll definitely throw me off in terms of how the analogs are mapped. Yeah, so we're good on that. I just had to quickly go into the settings and enable that. It was right, just because I didn't want to waste your guys' time, I went ahead and went on my own. And you go right under control, and then where we were making these changes before to 1.4, you just turn off reverse pitch, and that's all you have to do. And now we're playing this way more modern shooter style. Like it's significantly better than the alternative. So I would definitely recommend playing through Perfect Dark like this. I do not have a ton of nostalgia for this game, but being such a huge GoldenEye fan, and obviously you kind of know that is another stab at that same type of gameplay, but a lot more in-depth, advanced in a lot of ways. People will rank this higher than GoldenEye all the time, which I think just for the soundtrack and nostalgia of GoldenEye, for me, it maybe doesn't rank higher, but it is up there with that level of enjoyment. And you can really see like legitimately same game engine, same overall look and design for the enemies and things, but definitely make those controller changes if you plan on doing a full campaign run through with Perfect Dark. It does have of course the support for online co-op play, not co-op, online multiplayer out of the gate, so you can hop into any of that stuff. Lots of different ones to go through and actually spend some time in this video, so we're not going to really spend too much time in this particular game, but we will hop into our next game and keep it with the N64. We'll boot up Turok real quick. Now, playing this one with the N64 controller actually has a super interesting way to do it. You're moving with your C buttons, but you are then aiming up and down and inverted and all of that with the actual analog itself. So if you have nostalgia for the N64 version of this game, you may be well more familiar with kind of the control scheme and how things unfold, but to me, very jarring because I'm not used to the layout of this. Of course, I will say with like the up-res textures and things, this definitely doesn't look bad considering, you know, N64 game, playing it modern day on a Switch. Like, I'm sure for people who grew up with this, and if you have nostalgia, you're probably really going to enjoy it. It is definitely taking me some getting used to in terms of just navigating with this type of control setup, but maybe better off on a Pro controller, and maybe has some similar control options that you can adjust. I did not personally go through trying to look into all of those settings and things, but we're not going to spend a ton of time on this game because we do still have two other ones that are just absolute classics for me personally. But it was really cool to see two N64 games drop at the same time, and two GBA, because those are definitely the libraries that if you've seen my videos on recent updates, I've definitely been feeling like they've been neglected the most. Granted, there's still plenty of gaps in the N64 library, like where is Donkey Kong 64? Absolutely, where is Smash Bros 64? Like definitely some legitimate day one bangers if Nintendo just chooses to ever port them over, but nonetheless, yeah, Turok is up and running and available on N64 Online, and with that, we'll hop over to the GBA library next. So The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past has been playable for a long time on Nintendo Switch via the SNES library, but what has not is the Four Swords. And unfortunately, I can't really even demonstrate it in this video, but I do want to outline what you would do, because you just need to connect to an online connection with friends and you can actually get into this game. But back in the day, you had to have this Game Boy Advance setup with these type of link cables, or there was something weird you could do with playing this on the GameCube, because that's how I did it. And I was literally switching off between my Game Boy Advance and like my GameCube controller somehow. And I'm pretty sure that's how I went through the entirety of the game. But again, you do have to technically link up to other systems from what I can see. Like, I don't think there's actually any kind of workaround to not play online with this game, but nonetheless, extra content to check out. If you have NSO membership, you have friends that have it as well, get them to boot it up and go through it together. This is a very fun multiplayer Zelda game that Four Swords Adventures on the GameCube, you can actually take control of multiple links yourself and play that way. But I had a lot of fun with this, so I did want to give it a quick honorable mention on how Nintendo chose to roll this one out. So got to play it with some friends online, but that's the way it was designed to be played, so it's probably going to be more fun when it's all said and done. You can do it with as little as 2, but you may want to go all the way up to 4 if you do have all those friends with the NSO online membership. Now, the hype for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is absolutely at an all-time high for me, but where some of that hype stems from is these classic Metroid games that I all started to get into around the time that Prime came out. Honestly, when Prime came out, I went back and played the entirety of the Metroid franchise up to that point in time, with Fusion and Zero Missions being like my next games that I played in the 2D edition. So had a ton of fun with the exposure to this franchise and never realized that this version is superior in every way, shape, and form to the original NES Metroid, and it is very much a remake of the NES Metroid, but there are some key differences, and Samus's abilities and things are slightly different. Soundtrack, absolutely excellent. I've been waiting for this to drop since Fusion dropped onto the service. You should really do yourself a favor and play through this, then Super Metroid, then I guess you would go, no, you would do this, Samus Returns, Super Metroid, and then you would go through Fusion, and then you would go through Dread, and that would be your 1 through 5. Metroid arc there. So for the original stories of Metroid 1 through 5, I hope one day we would see like all these games remade in a modern day sense. But the only thing about Samus Returns is you don't want to play the Game Boy version if at all possible. Much better to enjoy that one via something like the 3DS version, which they have yet to port, but I think that would be an excellent addition if they did choose to port that ever. And then what I wanted to briefly talk about in terms of how we saw these games drop, and likely how we'll see the rest of NSO games, I believe, until we get another system announcement, is that instead of a roadmap of games where Nintendo tells us what to expect for the next few updates like we've seen them do in the past with N64, well, it seems like we're going to go to more of this surprise drop announcements, and that's something that they've tended to shift to after a system's kind of been out for a while. So when it first comes out, you sometimes get that advanced communication of a roadmap, and then it's still, even at that, is kind of iffy, because even though they showed you like a whole big roadmap of N64 games, it was what, like 9 games or something like that, and it took them over a year to actually complete that roadmap. So it wasn't like consistently one per month or anything like that. So I don't think the roadmaps mean all that much to begin with, and it just seems like we're now going to be at a point where the thing to expect is actually surprise announcements, and even at directs, maybe just shadow drop announcements like we saw them do this time around. So I am more in the belief that we will see that going forward. I do think that Nintendo's been very consistent lately with these NSO updates, because while they haven't been perfect, we have largely seen, for the most part, something once per month from the expansion pack and or the base tier of the service, and largely multiple games at once. So all good stuff there. I could continue to play this game through to completion. This is definitely like probably one of the biggest additions out of this update for me personally, in addition with wanting to play Perfect Dark again. That's going to be great. And then also just, you know, Four Swords is going to be great whenever I get a chance to boot it up online with some friends. So lots of cool stuff here, but I will say that NSO updates strong in the month of June, and we'll have to see, you know, what Nintendo does from here. But I do think that everything will just be a surprise drop announcement, not necessarily a future roadmap where we see them kind of announce things. So what did you think of the 4 games that got added into NSO? What do you think of the fact that we now have a N64 17 plus app? Do you think that spells good things for games like Conker's Bad Fur Day? Maybe they throw the old South Park games on there one day, because those were some that I definitely played that were mature rated before I was 17, by the way. But nonetheless, you know, that's something that I do think that that Nintendo, you know, can really open the floodgates with any kind of M-rated game, and now being in the conversation for N64. I do kind of wish in the app they just included the other games, so you didn't have to switch back and forth between the two. Like, I get having the N64 or the 17 N64 app, but at the same time, I would have liked them just to be able to kind of, you know, have the whole N64 library accessible there. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this direct NSO update that we saw just hit yesterday, and are you playing through any of these games currently? Which one out of all 4 are you most excited to see on the service and play through yourself? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.